What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Human Proof broadcast. Today, I'm with a very cool member of the HPD community. His name is Jaron. Jaron, welcome.
Hey, thanks so much for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. Uh, Jaron, why don't you introduce yourself to the HPD audience? Tell them what you're all about, where you're from, and essentially what's going on over there for you.
Sure. My name's Jaron. I live in North Idaho, and I've been doing kind of niche sites since November of 2017, so not that long. So, yeah, I don't know if you want me to kind of go into the whole story of kind of how I got into it, but just the kind of the quick version was my son was born in July of 2017, and I had some time in the evenings, and money was a little bit tight, and we were just looking for a way to kind of supplement our income, paying the bills, but just no extra. And so I just started looking for ways, and so I just kind of got into the whole making money online niche, and then once you kind of get in there, then you can start getting bombarded with Facebook ads, and so I started falling into like all the things that were trending at the time, like drop shipping with a Shopify store. I think I started with, and then I made a tiny bit of money with that, but that wasn't going real well. And then I found Doug Cunnington's content on YouTube, and I found Income School, Jim and Ricky. Both of those groups at the time were just really pushing Amazon niche sites. And so I started one in November of 2017 and just wrote a lot of content. And that site started to really pick up some steam. So I wrote more content and just really pushed. And then that site became pretty successful. And then I bought a Human Proof site as my second site in August of last year. And then I've been working on and growing that site. So yeah, I work full time. So this has all been a part-time venture for me, but a really successful and lucrative one so far.
Very cool. In our a few episodes ago, we had Marty on the
Yeah.
episode as well, and he he also had an endeavor into drop shipping and wasn't particularly, I guess, a fan of that.
Yeah.
Why don't we talk about your let's talk about your first site, actually. So how did
Yeah.
that get started? And yeah, why don't you just tell us a little bit? If you can share any numbers, that'd be fantastic,
Sure.
so people know
Yeah, I'd be
what's
happy
going on.
to. Yeah. So I started that. I wrote my very first blog post on a brand new website, brand new domain, everything fresh in November of 2017. I took a course from Income School, not their current one. It was an older one that was a little bit more self-directed, and just went through that. And I just started writing content pretty much. The niche I chose is in the health category, and and obviously this was before Google made any changes like they have recently to some of the health and wealth categories. So started there, wrote about 10, 15 posts by the end of 2017. Then took a little bit of time off around Christmas and the New Year. And then, because I was writing to a ghost town, there was no traffic, obviously. And so it's always a little bit tough when you're writing on a brand new site because no one is reading the content. Google hasn't had a chance to, really index the site yet or give you any kind of authority or rank your articles. So I was just kind of writing to a ghost town. But after I took that, I had maybe 10, 15 articles on the site, and I took a month off. And then when I came back to the site, there was a little bit of traffic. And that was really encouraging for me. It was 45 days, 60 days in, and it wasn't much, maybe it was 5 or 10 people a day. But it was enough that it got me kind of revved. So I was like, okay, I'm going to do this. So I just kept writing content. And then I think maybe four or 5 months in, the site was doing about $300 a month. And I was interviewed by Doug Cunnington on his channel about it then. And I was really revved, because the site was pretty young, and to be making any money at all, I was pretty pumped about. And then about 6, 7 months in, the site was doing over $1,000 a month. And I had continued to write content. I think by then it probably had maybe 60 or 70 articles on it, and good articles. I was really taking my time. I wrote all the content myself. I hadn't outsourced any articles yet. All the articles were pretty long, well researched, good articles. And then just fast forward by, I think, October of 2018, the site did about $6,000 or $7,000 for the month. And then by the end of 2018, it was doing over $10,000 a month, and it's continued to do that since. And it's been my primary site. I think it has well over 100 articles on it now, all written by me. And it did when Google first came out with their kind of what they call it, the algorithm change that kind of affected sites that were in the health or wealth categories wanting more authority. I did see a pretty dramatic drop in traffic because it was kind of a health. I definitely had a lot of articles that were health oriented, and even with a medical disclaimer and even me saying not a doctor, I definitely lost some authority there and lost some rankings, but they've climbed back up since then. It doesn't seem like it affected me in the long run. But yeah, so now that site is just my baby and the one I work on a lot. But because it had that one hit, I really wanted to have a few sites to diversify a bit. And that was part of the reason that I bought a human proof site. And I have one more other than that too, but the human proof site is my, definitely my second site, and it's growing quickly, and I'm going to be putting a lot of time into it in 2018 or 2019.
Allow me to recap that then. So
yeah, sorry, that was a lot.
No, at 4 months, you were making around 300.
Yep.
6-7 months, 1,000.
Yep.
And then soon after, October 2018, making around $8,000.
Yep.
And then at the end of the year, around Christmas time, which makes sense.
Yep.
$10,000. And then since
over
then,
10,000. Yep. And it's stayed over 10 since then.
So most people that I've spoken to, in general, even in the HPD community, when they start seeing success and stuff like that, I would say, 8 months is probably the time when people start seeing the traffic coming in and the income trickling in and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Whereas your site was pretty early on, so it's almost half that time. So what do you think was the reason why? What's the number one reason why your site is so successful?
I would say the reason that it was successful early is two things. One, I wrote a lot of good long content. And two, I chose really small keywords. And I think that was probably what did it for me the most as far as getting traffic early and getting earnings early. Because if you write a fairly large keyword, just depending on the niche you're in, if you go after one of the big keywords that there's a lot of competition for, it doesn't mean you can't rank for that, but it's going to take longer because it's a more competitive keyword, especially if it's high buyer intent. There's a lot of people that want that. And so one, it's just going to take a long time to get that. Two, it's going to take your site a bit of authority to achieve that. So if you write 20, 30, 40 articles in the first few months, but they're all just after the biggest keywords, you might not see much traffic for a while. And what I did is I chose really small keywords, many of which almost no one was writing for, some of which even said they had 0 monthly search volume, but they just seemed like reasonable queries for my niche. So I figured that someone had to be searching them. And so I just went after really, really small keywords and then just kind of scaled up from there. So I started with the really tiny stuff. I basically tried to find articles where like no one had specifically written an article to help that searcher, and that most of the search results were like tangential. Like they wrote an article that was similar and it just kind of captured that keyword because no one had even targeted it. So really small stuff. And I think that was one of the reasons I got a lot of traffic early. And then as the site grew, I started going after bigger and bigger keywords, which worked well for me because I was starting to get some backlinks just organically from writing decent content. And for many of those keywords, I was kind of the only article out there. And so if someone was going to link to one, they grabbed mine. So I think writing a lot of content at small keywords is what allowed me to get traffic and earnings early.
Do you have an example of what a small keyword is? Because are these commercial keywords then that just happen to have very like low volume, like you said, 0 almost?
No, most of the keywords I went after early were not buyer intent, which I assume is what you mean by commercial. They were not like best ballpoint pens, to steal something from Doug. They were not, which now I go after a bit of those, and they're definitely my bigger money earning articles. But early on, most of those keywords in my niche were people were writing articles and pretty good articles. So I just went after mostly informational articles, small questions that no one had answered. I would say probably my first 30, 40 posts, almost none of them were buyer intent. Except for I did write some reviews of products where no one had written them, but those have never done super well for me. I've done much better with like the best X for Y type keywords. Yeah, early on, I didn't really go for those. They were pretty much just all questions people were asking just to get traffic. And then some of the early earnings from the site where I still recommended some Amazon products in those articles. And then I did have a recommended products page pretty early on that I would send people to. So yeah, I mean, honestly, sometimes I would sneak an Amazon affiliate link in there, even if it didn't really, like, it wasn't a buyer intent keyword, but I would find a way to kind of organically recommend something. Um, so
Yeah, you can absolutely add product recommendations
yeah,
into
yeah,
informational keywords.
yeah, because even if they're not certain, even if they didn't land on there to find a product, I would just mention that I might mention a product in the informational article, and then I would just in parentheses say my absolute favorite is this one from Amazon, and then I would just go on, and that would just be a text link. And those actually did fairly well for me early on because I was getting traffic and people clicked on them. And a lot of my early Amazon earnings weren't even necessarily for those products, but I was getting a lot of clicks to them. I think mostly because people were just curious about what my favorite product was, and I wouldn't mention it. I would just say my favorite and then link to Amazon. So I think a lot of people just clicked just to see what the product was, and maybe they didn't buy it, but maybe they bought something else later that night. And I had the cookie for 24 hours and I captured something. So
Yeah, it's amazing sometimes how much money is going through Amazon.
yeah, it is. A little off topic, but something I think the community might be interested in. But I don't know if you noticed or heard about the Amazon EU changes to where they lowered the commission rate for products outside of the categories you're recommending, but increased them for the categories you are recommending. Do you happen to see that? They lowered it to
I
like
saw someone
1.5.
post that. Yeah.
Yeah, they lowered it to like 1.5% for outside of the category you're recommending, but raised the categories a little bit, which I think just something interesting because that's not the case in the U.S. now. That is the case in the EU. And I've talked to some people over there that have actually seen an increase in their earnings, especially for buyer intent keywords. So
Oh,
off
wow.
topic, but yeah. So
Yeah, I mean, they're all actually separated from each other and trying to
yeah,
work together with different
yeah,
rules.
exactly, and always changing.
Yeah. Uh, for this site,
Yeah,
well, I'm going to call it the 10K site or your baby site,
sure, that
whichever
sounds
one.
good.
So your main project there is, did you know very much about this niche?
A little bit, but no, most of it I learned on the go, um, which has been the case with pretty much all my sites. None of my sites did I really choose because there was something I was super passionate about. It was more just like I felt like there was room. There was keywords that people weren't targeting, or at least not doing a good job with. So I knew a little bit about it, but not. I wouldn't have called myself an expert by any means. Almost every article, was just me researching what was available online and kind of trying to put together a helpful piece of content.
Okay, very cool. Yeah, just because I was wondering about if you're attacking these low volume keywords
Mhm.
that have I was thinking, oh, maybe he's grabbing them because he knows a bit about the niche, so he's thinking, oh, people are
Yeah,
interested in this.
yeah. I knew enough about the niche to help me find keywords that were relevant, but not enough that I could like find one of those keywords and without researching write a helpful article. So I just knew enough to know what to look for as far as keywords go, like what people in this niche might be needing, or to know if a small question was something that someone in this category might ask. But I never was able to write an article without doing some good research.
Okay. What is if we could think about your site in terms of a pie chart? Let's think of a big pie chart,
Sure.
and uh, how much of your site is earning income from affiliate income or from
Yeah.
ads or even your own product, let's say, because some people have their own
Yeah.
products, but I don't think yours do. But
Nope.
yeah, please start.
Yep. So none of my own products. It's about between Amazon US, Amazon Canada, and Amazon UK, all of which I send traffic to. Mostly it's US. Amazon affiliate program is about 40 to 45%. And then about 30 to 40% is all other affiliate products, non Amazon affiliate products. And then about 20% is ad revenue.
Okay, very cool. So it's kind of split up there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
So it's fairly diversified.
what uh, what other affiliate programs are you involved in, and why did you use those ones versus Amazon?
Yeah, great question. So a lot of those, so early on when I was monetizing, like when I had that $300 a month, that was 100% Amazon. At the time, people were just teaching Amazon niche sites, and that's the only all that I linked to. And then as I learned more about the niche, and as I found more websites that were writing for it, I was introduced to more products. And so the first book I added was an ebook from ClickBank that was very specific to my niche. Was really low, pretty low cost. I think it's $15, but it was 75% commission. And so, after being on Amazon for a while, averaging around 5 sightings, so I just had a little banner and on the side, which is no longer there because of the ads. But and then I just kind of went through some of my higher trafficked articles and just put in like a little blurb. Hey, if you're really interested in this topic, I really love this ebook by this person. You should check it out. And I started making sales with that. And it didn't, because it was 75% commission, it was pretty worth me trying to, insert those. And that started to do pretty well for me. So I started getting some ClickBank checks. Um, um, and then most of the other affiliate products that I do pretty well with now are products that I first recommended on Amazon. And then as I recognized that they were selling for me, um, either reached out to or found the affiliate program for that company specifically, and then just approached them. And then where I would recommend the Amazon version, I just recommended straight to their website for a higher commission, because most of those were 10 to 20% for a physical product, as opposed to 4 to 6% on Amazon. So I had to kind of watch a little bit, because Amazon definitely converts much better than any other site. But a lot of times the higher commissions made it worth it. And then over time, I've just kind of like slowly gotten rid of some of the Amazon links and replaced those with direct affiliate links to the companies where it's made sense to. And some of those, I did that, and the company's websites converted terribly for me, and I backed off and came back to Amazon. So I've just kind of always done a little bit of conversion rate optimization and just kind of tracking, because sometimes the product would sell well. I would go to their direct affiliate program and it just wouldn't do well for me. And so I would just come back to Amazon. But some of them have done well and continue to do well. And so I've just stuck with them. But yeah, about half of the non-Amazon affiliate revenue is ClickBank. And then the rest is just other products.
Have you ever given people the option to go to Amazon or that private affiliate program, to give them essentially, like, I don't know, maybe like two buttons? Or have you tested that? Have you not?
I haven't really tested that. I recently started testing that on my HPD site, but that isn't something I've tested much on my 10K site. Although I do think it could be worth it. In the last few months, I've really been thinking about the conversion rate optimization of the site and the higher traffic articles, and so I'm trying to be more thoughtful about that. But that's not something I've tested much. Is
Okay.
having kind of the dual option.
Yeah, no, well, Yeah, I'm just curious, just because then you can get you can get two cookies
Yeah,
on there, and
yeah,
they can do a
potentially. But
comparison
yeah,
themselves.
yeah, that's true.
Um, but
Yeah, it's actually a
obviously,
good idea.
it's very dependent on
Yeah,
so many circumstances.
yeah.
Uh, how much of your traffic comes from organic? Like, are you getting traffic sources from other places, like Pinterest or social media, any other places?
Yeah, it's like 95% organic or higher. Um, I have made no effort to get traffic from any other source other than organic traffic. So I've never done anything on Pinterest. There's like I've never done anything with Facebook. I've never done anything with anything else. So not that they couldn't potentially be worth it, but with my larger site, it isn't a site that, in my opinion, would do well on Pinterest with the audience that's currently there, maybe in the future. But it is something I'm trying to introduce with my HPD site, which is more in the beauty niche, and I think could do well there. But yeah, so it's like 95% or higher organic with my main site.
Okay, okay, very cool. How much time are you spending on these sites? Actually, before that one, let's back it
Yeah,
up a little bit, just because I'm curious about how much time you were spending at the beginning, and then
yeah,
let's say how much time you're spending now. Is it different? Is it more? Is it less? Like, how does
yeah.
that look?
It's different. So the way that I got started with this, and it actually worked out really well for me, is I told you my son was born in July of 2017. And so around November, my wife was primarily breastfeeding at night. And so I had like an hour and a half period when she was putting our baby to sleep. And so every night I would write one article, and I would just always get the article done. Even if I wasn't quite done when she finished, she would just come out and listen to a podcast or watch a show, and I would just finish the article. And so that's how I wrote most of my like first 30 articles over the course of a few months. Was just writing one article every night when she was putting the baby to sleep. And so I was spending about an hour and a half to 2 hours a night doing that. And then once the site started picking up and making some money, and I recognized like, oh, okay, this is worth my time, because for a while there you're spending a lot of time and there's no return. So you don't know if you're doing a good job with the writing. You don't know if you're doing a good job with the keyword research. You don't really know until you get validated with traffic. And so once I started getting validated, I knew that I was doing it at least somewhat right enough to get traffic. And so I started putting more time in. I've had a full-time job throughout all of this. So I've never been able to work on it during the day. So it's always been evenings and weekends. But I would say I put in at least probably 10 to 15 hours a week now, which is a little bit more than I did then.
Okay.
But about all I can spare. So
Yeah, it's pretty amazing though. Hey, when you are when you're brand new to building any site and you've never done SEO ever, and you write an article and all of a sudden you see it ranking, even if
it's an
even
amazing feeling. Yeah.
it's crazy because it's not that hard.
Yeah, no. And the fun thing was, because I was writing really small keywords, there was a keyword early on. It was a small keyword, but I asked Siri on my phone, and I was the answer to my question. Because it was a small question. In the Siri voice search is a little bit different than Google search, but the fact that like Siri read my snippet, just felt so exciting and validating. Really similar to seeing an article ranked for the first time. I was
Yeah.
like, oh my gosh, I have influence over the world, over this tiny, tiny keyword that no one's really searching, but it felt really powerful. So it's those small wins that can really give you motivation to keep going, for
Yeah.
sure.
Next thing you know, you're texting your mom or you're telling your wife, "Hey, baby, check this out."
Yeah. Oh man. Yeah. I definitely annoy my wife with how much I want to talk about blogging and niche sites.
Yeah,
Um,
don't worry, me
yeah.
too.
Yeah.
uh, for this main site
Yeah.
here, are you collecting emails?
I am. I am collecting emails, and that has been really a big thing for me. Um, and that's not something I talked about in the pie chart of earnings, actually, but earning well over $1,000 a month just from email marketing. So I'm growing a list. It's almost at 10,000 subscribers. So it's pretty decent size, which has been fun and gives me a little bit more influence when I'm approaching people about promoting their products. A lot of times I'll qualify for sometimes with like ClickBank or ShareSale, some of these other affiliate programs. You can qualify as like a super affiliate, which basically just means they'll give you a little bit higher commission rate. And a lot of times that's based off of the size of your email list. So I've been able to qualify for some of those. And so I send about 3 emails a week. About 1 or 2 of those a week is some kind of affiliate link. And, I try to phrase the email more like it's being helpful, but there's an affiliate link in there. I try to give value, but there's an affiliate link in there. And then 1 or 2 emails a week is just pure value or linking to an article I wrote recently or something non-affiliate related. So yeah, I am collecting emails pretty aggressively, not aggressively, but I've definitely put time and focus into optimizing and split testing uh, a pop-up. And I just use one intent pop-up. So nothing when they're on the site going through articles, but as soon as they try to leave the site, there's one pop-up that comes up. For a while now, but I'm getting about 80 to 100 subscribers a day now, which is fantastic. So yeah, I've been putting a bit of time into that. And trying to get better at my email marketing skills, because there's some skill to writing the copy for those for your audience specifically, because early on I just used a lot of those affiliate programs will give you swipes, which is just like pre-written emails they've done, but they're writing them generically. And so I tried those and they did not resonate well with my audience, because I think people can just tell that they're not written for them, So I've been trying to be better about rewriting those, just to be a lot more specific to my audience. And so email marketing has been something I've been really into, has been worth my time, because it doesn't take a lot of time. It doesn't take hardly any time after you set it up to collect the emails. And it takes, maybe I spend an hour a week putting together those 3 emails. So maybe 4 or 5 hours a month, but it's bringing in well over $1,000 a month in returns for those emails.
So 80 to 100 emails a day, which is quite a bit. I don't think we actually talked about traffic. So how much traffic does your site get in order for you to be able to collect?
It's just under 200,000 page views a month.
Nice.
So pretty decent traffic. Around 6,000 to 7,000 page views a day.
What do you have on that? Well, actually, let's just talk about the lead magnet, or not the lead magnet, the pop-up that comes up. Yeah. What are you using to entice people to come onto your list?
Yeah, so I've tried a few different things over time, but I'll tell you what's been working well for me. So software-wise, I use Thrive Leads, really common. Just a WordPress plugin. It's a premium one. It's paid. But it gives you some really cool tools. 1, to design nice pop-ups, but 2, to split test them, which is really helpful in my opinion. I've done that a lot. So basically it'll just split the traffic 1-to-1, and then just help you choose a winner. And you'd be surprised how much better one pop-up can do than another, dramatically different. So for a while I just kind of put together just like my best tips kind of thing, which worked out well. It converted about 2%, which isn't terrible for an email pop-up, but it's pretty mediocre. And then starting in like November of 2017, or sorry, November of 2018, I started doing giveaways. So I purchased products in my niche, and so I was giving away that same kind of tips helpful thing, but then also letting people know that they were entered in a giveaway. And then every month I've been mailing products to people, doing physical product giveaways. And that's converted really well for me. And I do spend some money, buying the products, getting their address and shipping them. But it's definitely been ROI positive. And that more than doubled my opt-in rate to close to 5%. Okay.
I really like that, by the way, the giveaways. That's very smart.
Yeah. So that's worked well, and people get excited about it. So yeah, it's worked really well for me.
Have you ever thought about approaching the manufacturers to give you the product in general so that you can write a review on it?
Yeah, and I have been. most of the time it's not me approaching them, it's been them approaching me because it's a fairly small niche, and so most of the product manufacturers are aware of the site now. And so I've been reached out to a lot, and so I've gotten sent quite a few products that I disclose, and then I write up a review. But yeah, I have a room partly full of random products that I've been sent. Some of them not even that closely tied to the niche, but yeah, but that's been kind of fun. It feels exciting to get sent stuff, and they feel like it's worth it for them to send you products to review. Yeah, so I've reviewed a lot of products, and I mentioned that on my kind of recommended products page that I've actually been able to test now. All of these products, every product that I recommend, I own now, which was not always the case. So
That's pretty cool. That's pretty cool.
yeah,
I think a lot of people too, when they uh, uh, when they're building these sites, they don't really want to go on video because they've got they've got a persona. Let's say
mm-hmm.
I've seen some people actually do product reviews where they're doing the video, and what they do is they're just filming their hands.
Yeah,
They're just filming their hands doing that whole thing, and they just record over it
yeah,
afterwards, so it's a little bit more
yeah,
professional, we'll say.
yeah.
How does the flow work for your autoresponder? So walk us
Yeah,
through.
good
If
question.
somebody joins, what does that look like?
Yeah, good question. So, um, a few things happen. So, I was using Mailchimp early on for my email marketing. I have moved away from Mailchimp partly because they are not very friendly to affiliate links, and so I got flagged a few times, and it just I didn't like the feeling of having to like fight my own email marketing software, which is how it felt. I was like, oh, maybe I could like mask the link or something, but this felt silly. So 4 or 5 months ago, I moved to ConvertKit. Not advertising for either, but so I've been using them for my email marketing, and then also obviously my autoresponder. So I have about a 20 email autoresponder sequence. So as soon as they opt in, they get an email with kind of my tips, and then also letting them know they've been entered in the giveaway and when that will be happening and what the products are, et cetera. And then just letting them know, like, hey, I'll be sending you a few emails a week. I really hope you'll enjoy the content. I'll try to bring you a lot of value. But if at any time you're not excited about the content, you can always unsubscribe at the bottom of any of these emails. You won't be removed from the giveaway. Because I think that would violate some GDPR stuff. So, and then every 2 days for the first 20 emails, so for the first 40 days, they get an email, and they're in kind of a separate segment. So all the other content I'm sending, so like the 2 or 3 emails I'm choosing to send a week, do not go to people that are in the sequence, because otherwise they would just get bombarded. And because it's based off of 2 days, so 48 hours from when they subscribed, they might get 2 emails within minutes of each other, if I was sending them both the sequence and my emails. So they're segmented, and so they don't get any of the emails I'm sending out until they're out of the sequence, and then it changes their segment. So yeah, it's 20 emails, and it's about the same mix. About 1 or 2 emails a week are affiliate related, and 1 or 2 a week are just value or just an article I think could be really helpful for them. Yeah, and so it's 20 emails, 40 days. And that does pretty well for me. That brings me sales. So just having someone opt in, even if they, if they just make it through most of the sequence, that does pretty well for me, sales wise.
So you've got the track, basically, you've got the first sequence that goes out,
Mm-hmm.
which is completely separate, and then you've got weekly emails that you send out every week that you do yourself manually.
Yep, that I get.
Essentially, it's a broadcast for those that aren't
familiar.
It's
exactly a broadcast, and that's the ConvertKit word for it too. So,
yeah. How did you decide to structure the sequence of these emails? Were you just like, I have to do this and I got to just bang out all these emails? Or like, did you frame it in a way where there's a specific sequence?
I didn't frame it. I'm considering going back and redoing it a bit. As I've learned a little bit more about email marketing, especially structuring those sequences. There's a lot of people that are much better about kind of holding the person's hand through the sequence, meaning like they'll send a first email out and they'll be like, hey, tomorrow you're going to get this. And, or, you know, in 2 days, you're going to get this, look out for it. This is the header. I'm really excited to talk to you. And then it's like, they show up, you know, and so it's a lot more interactive and like, you're like prequeling what the next one will be. And when they get there, you're excited and you kind of pull them through that email and then prequel the next one and walk them through, which I think can convert better. But not what I did and is not what currently is in place. Basically what's currently in place is I would, if I ever sent out a broadcast that did pretty well as far as open rate and click-through rate and sales, I just either took that exactly or remodeled it and then put it in the sequence. Because I'm like, okay, my audience responds well to this, so I'm just going to make sure that everyone sees it. And then I would just make sure to never have 2 affiliate emails in a row. So I would either just think of or just put in place some kind of just value email, meaning no affiliate link, not trying to sell anything, either directing to an article of mine or someone else's, or just an email with, hey, you know, I didn't give this tip in my opening tips, but this is something that's really important. Let me show or teach you something. And sometimes I would just think of those because I would have 2 affiliate links, affiliate emails that I really wanted to put in there. And I just needed to put something in between just because in my own mind, I didn't want people to get 2 affiliate emails in a row. And then, so the length of the sequence has just increased over time as I've sent out broadcasts. And if they did really well, I just think I should probably have this somewhere in my sequence. And so I would just kind of add it onto the tail. And so it's just gotten longer over time.
Very cool. And it obviously, I mean, it makes 100% sense that you should be doing that.
Yeah. So it's like my broadcasts are like kind of conversion testing for my sequence.
Is your niche, would you say it's a business to business niche, or would you say it's a B2C niche?
B2C for sure.
All right. Given that, then, I guess the question I was going to ask was whether you have some sort of filter on your emails to only send on the weekdays, or is it just like whenever they send? So it doesn't matter if you're, it doesn't matter. They may get emails on Sundays. They may get emails on.
Yeah, good question. I have no filters. So it's just based off of 48 hours, I think, from when they opted in. You can add those kind of filters, and you can add time filters and day filters and all that kind of stuff, but not something I've done. Nor have I really looked into whether that's worth it. And it might be. It super might be. But yeah, there's so many things that I would probably do and test if I was doing this full time, which someday I might. But because I've done this all part time, I have to be really careful with how I spend my time. And most of that time has been writing content, which is usually the best use of my time.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's digital real estate.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
The more you can take up on the internet.
Yeah, it's really easy to get lost in like testing things or playing with things or changing the look of the site, or a lot of those things can be, because they're much more fun, but they're largely distractions, because changing the font color of your menu is likely to do absolutely nothing for your business, but writing another article could be a big thing, you know, and is almost sure to be at least positive. So yeah, I have to be careful with myself. And something I try to tell others is that just mostly keyword research and write content, because the look of your site is not going to matter that much in the long run. As long as it's mobile, you know, it's mobile friendly and it looks fairly professional, then you've done 95% what you can do conversion wise, you know.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, if you've ever gone onto Empire Flippers, for those of you that I mean, I'm assuming the majority of the audience hasn't, but you'll look and you'll see, obviously these sites are earning income, but they look terrible.
Yeah, and the same with many sites. You'll find that they're just older sites and they look terrible, but most of the time they're not landing on your homepage or even visiting it. People will obsess about the look of their homepage, but most of the time people aren't even visiting it. Especially, at least the websites I've had, and I would say the vast majority of Amazon affiliate sites are very transactional. You write an article, maybe it's best X for Y or just a helpful informational article. You rank it, someone searches for it, they find the answer on your page, and then you might not ever see them again, especially if you didn't capture their email because you helped them or you didn't help them with their specific search. And so usually they're not instantly like, oh my gosh, this site is something I need to visit every day. I need to check out the homepage. I need to look all over it. Mostly they're landing on the article that ranked. And that's your opportunity to sell them something or get some ad revenue or capture their email. But rarely do they look around your site, at least in my experience.
Okay. That actually I wasn't sure whether I was going to ask the question, but I think this is probably going to be a good moment. So you mentioned about how most people aren't going to land on your homepage. They're just going to land on a review site, a review article. What inspired you to go for this niche then? Because I think a lot of people don't collect emails because they don't think they can collect emails, whereas you're obviously proving that wrong. So what goes into niche collection for you that would make you choose a niche like this because you're collecting emails?
Yeah. And I think sometimes the niche can be a little bit harder than others to collect emails, depending. I think my larger site caters to it a little bit more. And I think it's a little bit easier as you build up a site and it's a little bit more authority to collect emails, because I think you have more to offer, and I just think it can be a little more worth it for people. But so my main niche was just something I was just kind of like slightly aware of. And then when I was pressed to pick a niche, because I took a course from Income School, and part of that was niche selection, I just was kind of aware of it. I was like, not that many people are maybe doing this. And I just started doing some keyword research and recognized that there's not a lot of large sites going after these keywords. There's enough small keywords that I can get into this. And so I just kind of moved forward with it. So no exciting story, no Slumdog Millionaire kind of thing. It was just, I was just kind of pressed to find a niche. And so I had explored a few. One that I almost did was soundproofing, but didn't do because the Income School guys had done a public case study of a site that they built and then gave away, which is the only reason I'm mentioning the niche publicly. And because of that, and because they showed some success in a very small site very early, a ton of people in the communities that watched their traffic made soundproofing sites. And it was very obvious that they were just largely copying that. And I was like, I don't want to just be another person in that, stampede. So, so then I went with my next idea, which was just, roughly in the health niche. So,
yeah. There's nothing like a timeline to make you make a decision.
yeah. I thought I was just kind of pressed, and so I just picked one and moved forward with it. Not really knowing. In fact, there was definitely some, at least at the time I selected it, there was definitely plenty of red flags. One was there weren't very many products that were high ticket Amazon wise. It's a very small niche, so the overall traffic for the niche is fairly small. And it's not, I would say that some people now are saying niche down, but not quite as much as you used to. Leave yourself, at least with your domain and brand selection, open that you can expand if the site starts doing well. Like, don't pigeonhole yourself too small. And the site is very pigeonholed. It's very small. It's a bit niche wise. But it's worked out.
Sorry, the site that what you're talking about with you're talking about the bigger site, or you're talking about the HBD site?
No, I'm talking about the bigger site. When I first selected it, it was a pretty small niche, and it still kind of is. I'm just kind of the biggest player in it now. So I would have said that if I had talked to some experts, they might have suggested picking a different one, just because it was very small, weren't very many good products to recommend, and not that many buyer intent keywords, because there aren't that many products in the niche. So,
at what point did you start to think about another site? Because you could just keep going with this main site that you have, and you don't work on this full time, so time is limited, like you said, right?
Yeah.
So what kind of inspired you to start looking into another asset?
Yes, there was two reasons. One, at the time, the course being taught that I had taken recommended 2 sites. And so I just kind of always had that in my mind, have a second site. But then the other thing was I got hit with a few minor algorithm changes where I saw traffic and earnings drop. Luckily, I regained those pretty quick, but it just made me feel weary. And so I just kind of wanted to have at least a second site that I spent time in. And when I bought a human proof site, the earnings from the main site weren't at 10K a month. They were good, but they weren't paying all of our bills or doing anything crazy. And I just kind of wanted like a second site as kind of a backup, something to work on, grow, maybe get to $1,000 a month or so, or maybe get up to the point where I could pay our mortgage. I just kind of wanted to have 2 assets, diversify the risk a little bit. And also I was pretty burnt out writing for that niche because I'd written all the content myself. And I was starting to kind of run out of good keywords that I wanted to write. And 2, I was just burnt out writing about the topic. And so I got an email, I was on the Human Proof email list, and I got an email one day about, Dom always announces new age sites that are available or when new sites are available. And so a new batch of aged sites were available. And the cool thing about those, at least at the time, and I think it's still the case, is that most of them, you can visit the site because they're aged. You can visit the site, you can look at the articles, you can run them through, SEMrush, or you can run them through tools. And one of the age sites really stood out to me in kind of the beauty niche, as it was already getting a little bit of traffic. It already had a few keywords ranking. I liked the content that was on it, and I just kind of liked the niche. And so I bought that site mostly because I wanted a second site, but I didn't want to go through the mental agony of starting a brand new site where you're writing articles and no traffic is coming. And more than no traffic coming, you just don't know if you're doing it right. And even though I was fairly good at it at the time, it's just not that great of a feeling writing an article. And then knowing that no matter how good that article is, you probably need to wait a few months to see any traffic. So the idea of buying an age site was just really appealing to me. So yeah, just all the pieces kind of came together. And so I bought that site and then immediately started working on it. And I think it started with 13 articles and it's up to close to 80 now.
Wow. Okay. What was your game plan going in then? So let's walk through.
Yeah.
You are, essentially you're on the HPD age site sales page.
Yeah.
You're looking at it. You're looking at this niche. You've popped it up into Ahrefs, SEMrush, whatever. You make the purchase, and then essentially what happens is the site gets transferred to you after and stuff like that. But in between there, what's going on in your head? What are you planning?
Yep. So in between, so I purchased the site, and then the site was, it takes a little bit of time for them to move stuff over, and they're very helpful with all that. But kind of while that process was happening, I immediately started doing keyword research. And so I just started putting together kind of a hit list of articles that I wanted to write. And because it was a brand new niche, a brand new site, I was just really high energy, really pumped about it because it's something new. And I had only been working on one niche and one site all this time and was just really excited to write about something different, even though it was something I knew nothing about. Because it's in the kind of the beauty niche and mostly female focused. Most of the audience is female, and most of the products I'm recommending I've never used or heard of. And so, so I just started immediately putting together kind of a hit list of articles. And I did that in a few ways, which there's actually a new keyword strategy I'm using that I'd like to share with the audience in a minute, but not something I used at the time. So mostly what I did is just Google autocomplete and suggest. I did use Keywords Everywhere, which is just one of my favorite tools. It's completely free. It's a Chrome extension and a Firefox extension, just amazing, completely free. Everyone should have that. Basically what it does is when you search anything in Google or Google Trends or Amazon or many places, but mostly Google, one, it gives you volume. And volume I use more comparatively than specifically. Like if it says it gets 1,900 searches a month, I know that it's probably going to get a lot more searches than that. but it'll help me compare that to one that gets 50. And I know that the 1900 one's going to get more traffic. But if it says 50 searches a month, I rarely find that to be the case. So I use keywords everywhere, one for comparative volume, but mostly for on the right-hand side now, when you Google a term, it gives you people also searched for. And so it just gives you a lot of ideas, and then you can just click on those, and then it just Google searches that, and then it'll give you people also search for on that. And so you can just kind of go down the rabbit hole and find some pretty long tail keywords. And I would just kind of do that until I landed on some search results where I felt like the articles were either from really small websites and were really short, not that helpful articles, or they weren't even they were ranking number 1, 2, 3, but they weren't even writing the article for that search. As an example, I'll use ballpoint pens. That's what always comes to my mind, because that's what Doug Cunnington always uses. If the keyword I'm going after is best read ballpoint pen for journalists, something very specific, and the search result is best ballpoint pen for news anchors, they weren't even trying to target that search, but maybe it's just from a large website and they wrote a helpful article, and so they just got it because that was just the best result Google could find. That was always an alarm for me to go for that, because no one was ranking that was targeting that search. And so backtracking a little bit, I just immediately made up a hit list. I think maybe 50 articles that I felt like were worth writing for the niche. And as soon as I took possession of the site, I immediately just started publishing content.
How do you research and create content for a niche that you are not familiar with?
Yeah, great question. So I would say it's largely just what's often called the skyscraper method, which basically what I do is I'll find the 3 to 5 best sources, the best articles for that keyword. And a lot of times what I'll do is I'll open them all up. I'll read them, and then I just kind of combine them either in my mind, or sometimes I'll reference them. Like I'll split my screen so that half is the article I'm writing and half is an article I'm kind of referencing. And then I just kind of combine all the best knowledge into one longer, more helpful version of it. Rewrite everything, never copy paste, but I use all of those sources just to make one better one. So I just kind of become a mini expert in the very small keyword by reading the best available resources and then combining it into one longer, more helpful resource.
So you're opening up the first 10 results, reading all of those, and then is that correct? And then
yep. Yeah, and I would not usually 10, but I'll usually pick the 3 to 5 that are the closest to helpful. And then I'll read those. And then the ones that I feel like I'm going to be referencing more closely, I'll leave open, either like in another tab, or I'll split my screen so that I'm seeing the article I'm writing and then the article I'm referencing. And then I just write up a longer, more helpful resource, just kind of combining all the best knowledge available to me.
So that keyword strategy that you had mentioned previously, is that what you were talking about with keywords everywhere, or do you have a different strategy you want to share?
Yeah. So some people are probably familiar with, hang on, pull it up real quick. Ubersuggest, which is a keyword tool that was standalone and was purchased last year, I think, by Neil Patel. So it's on his website if you just Google Ubersuggest. And basically what he did is he purchased a paid tool, because at the time Ubersuggest premium options were paid. He purchased Ubersuggest and just made the whole thing free. And beyond making it completely free, so it's a completely free resource and a good one, keyword-wise, he's also spent a good amount of money expanding it. And one thing that he did recently, because a keyword thing that I would do a lot with SEMrush is I would search for competitors. So I find someone else in my niche, and then I would put them in SEMrush, and I would look at the keywords they were ranking number 1 for. And I would look for the small one, and then I would go look at their article. And if I didn't feel like it was very good or very long or very helpful, then I would just kind of go after their keywords, because they're they're in my niche and they didn't do a great job answering it. And so I knew that it was probably getting traffic, so I would just go directly after it. But SEMrush is a paid tool, a good one, but pretty expensive. And so something that Ubersuggest has recently added is that you can actually search domains and do essentially the same thing. You can see all the keywords that they rank for. And then, so what I do is on Ubersuggest, I'll type in a domain of a competitor, someone else in my niche. And then at the bottom, it'll show all the keywords they rank for. And you can hit like show all keywords. It'll take you to a specific page for it. And then you can check the upper left box and it'll select all of them. And at the very bottom of that screen, you can hit export. And it'll export thousands, all of their keywords into an Excel spreadsheet. Then you can go sort. And so then I'll just go sort them first by their ranking. So it ranks all the number ones and then by their volume. So it'll show you all their number one, all the keywords they rank number one for on Google. And then those are sorted by highest volume to lowest volume. And so you basically get a really accurate picture of all the articles that they're getting traffic from. And then it's just this amazing list of keywords that you can go through and find the ones, one, are they ranking for number one for it because it's so small they didn't even try to get it number one, but they just happened to? Are they ranking number one because they actually wrote an incredible article? Or are they ranking number one because they just wrote a mediocre article and I can write a much better one? And I've been using that strategy for most of my keywords for the last few months, and it works extremely well.
And you use that because you've just used it for the last few months, and that's a strategy that you applied essentially to the HPD site.
No. And so that's what I was trying to say is I use largely the keywords everywhere and kind of Google autocomplete rabbit hole kind of thing for that site. This is just something I wanted to mention because I think it's really cool and not very many people are doing it. Because it's a completely free way to see like all the keywords that a site is ranking for. And so I've been using that a lot. That's not what I did when I first took the HPD site because I got that site in August. And I was largely just doing the Google autocomplete and keyword everywhere, which I still do sometimes and it's still a great way to find keywords.
Okay, very cool. So I know your niche, I know your site and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. And what I'll say is that it's a seasonal seasonal niche there. What in your mind made you choose a seasonal niche, and what are you doing to I mean, I'm actually quite interested in people that have seasonal niches, right? Just because they are lower competition, and what are people doing on the off season to make their site better?
Yeah, exactly. So I'll say a few things. First, my 10K site is not seasonal at all. Which is great. But so I had no experience in seasonal niches because that site is like as flatline in Google Trends as you can get. It's just not at all tied to seasons. But my primary site in the beauty niche is quite seasonal. And it peaks around late April to May, which I have not owned the site for yet. Because I purchased the site in August of 2018. And so I haven't experienced that yet. But the traffic has still been growing. Because although it's seasonal peak-wise, it does still get traffic year-round because it's not a product that is only used one season, but it's used much more in that season, in that time of year. So for me, what I've tried to kind of do mindset-wise is pretend that it's not that seasonal because it does get traffic year-round, and just try to grow the site as much as I can, and then imagine that the seasonal peaks is just like a bonus. It's like a second retail season, right? Where it's just going to get a lot more traffic and earn a lot more money, just as kind of a bonus. So I just kind of think of it as more like a second retail season, which is like Black Friday through the end of December, which is where most Amazon niche sites do really well. So I have not, and then I've also tried to target some keywords specifically out of season. So I've tried to write some articles that are specifically helpful away from the season. So how to use a product around this time or best product for around this time, which has helped. And those articles have actually done pretty well, not even just in those seasons, but done pretty well overall. So yeah, it is fairly seasonal, but so far hasn't bothered me too much, mostly because the traffic has still been like it's going up at a nice pace. I've yet to experience what should be its peak season.
That's pretty interesting. So you're saying you're targeting keywords that are specifically for seasons, but you've got different. Well, I
But
mean, there are
outside
different.
of the peak season, yeah,
Yeah.
because that I don't need to target. That is just when people are searching keywords anyway, all across the board. No reason to target that. All my articles should do well in that time. But to keep the traffic consistent year round, I'm trying to kind of like hedge that a little bit by having content that will specifically do well outside of that. But mostly I've just tried to be in the mindset of thinking that it's not that seasonal because it does get traffic year round. And I'm trying to just imagine that its peak season will just be kind of like a second bonus. Because I think there's enough traffic that even outside of the season, it's worth it. Even if it flatlined at that lower amount, it would still be worth it. You don't need the season, I don't think, to be successful in this niche.
Okay. Okay. I
Hopefully
like
that's
that.
not too confusing.
No. It's well, not to
Yeah.
me.
Yeah.
But, uh, so this site now, how much did it earn in February then? Because right now it's March
Yeah. So
2nd.
February earned just under $800. And that was the 7th month that I had the site. So very happy with that. In January, it did a little over 300. In December, it did just under 100. So it's been doubling or more for the last few months. The traffic and the earnings have been going up. But one of the reasons that it went up in January, February so high, because it did less than 100 in December, which is should be a very good time because it's just high. Everything does better retail wise. Is I added premium ads to the site. And that essentially doubled the income of the site because it was making money, but it was only monetized to Amazon affiliates. Added premium ads and essentially doubled the income of the site because it was getting okay traffic. And a lot of my articles just didn't even have Amazon links. So after I added ads, it can take a little while, a few weeks for the fill rate to kind of go up. It takes a little while for them to kind of test your site and see what does well for their ad partners. But once that kind of levels out, the RPMs go up. So about half the revenue is ads and half it's Amazon affiliates.
When you say a premium, when you say you added premium ads, what does that mean for you?
Yep. So a lot of people, when they think of ads, they think of Google AdSense, which is the lowest barrier to entry because they require basically nothing for you to apply and add Google AdSense, but it's very hands-on. So you need to, unless you're using a theme that helps you with a little bit, for the most part, you choose the ad placements, you put in the ad code, you do all that. There are what are typically called premium ad brokers that will help you with all that and usually give higher RPMs. So that's revenue per milli, so per 1,000 page views. But they usually have qualifications, meaning traffic-wise. So like there's Ezoic is one that's become more popular. I think it's around 8 or 10,000 sessions a month. There's Mediavine, which is one that I've used a bit, which is 25,000 sessions a month. And then there's kind of the biggest player is AdThrive, which is 100,000 page views a month, are the qualifications for application. So you can't even apply without those benchmarks. But then they give all the ad partners a chance to review your site and make sure that it's somewhere they would want to advertise. And if a large percentage of the ad brokers are like, no, I wouldn't want to because maybe the site's offensive or maybe the site just looks terrible or there's something. If a high percentage of those decline the site, then they'll decline you. I'm making that sound scarier than it is. For the most part, if you have a decent looking site that has helpful content and isn't highly offensive, you'll get approved if you've met their page view or session benchmarks. And the benefit of those premium ad brokers is one, they'll do pretty much all the work for you. So they'll select the ad placements. They do all the negotiating with the ads. Basically, you don't do anything other than just apply a little bit of code. They handle all the ad placements. Usually it's in content ads and sidebar ads and an ad that floats at the bottom. So it's quite a few ads. But the RPMs of those companies are usually much, much higher than like AdSense, which is fairly low.
Were you using AdSense before you added on the premiums?
No, I wasn't. I've never used AdSense. I mean, I know a lot of people that do, and I know the RPMs are pretty low. But for me, and I think for a lot of people, I don't think ads are worth it until, especially if you're an Amazon site, I don't think ads become worth it until you can qualify for one of those premium ad brokers. Because one, it ends up taking a lot of your time to place those ads yourself, and the earnings are so low that the degraded user experience is rarely worth the pennies that you'll be getting from the ads, until you can apply for an ad broker that will do all the work for you and pay you more for the ad placements.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. I would also say too, for for those of you who are maybe not at the stage where you can approach these larger ad networks, or maybe for some reason your account gets closed, or maybe it wasn't registered and you bought the site from somebody and you didn't have its account set up.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what the deal might be, but you can always approach. You can always do these deals yourself too. You can always approach private manufacturer, or you can approach manufacturers
Oh yeah,
to do that kind of stuff.
yeah. You can specifically negotiate deals. Yeah, and what I'm referencing more is the ad networks that just place all the ads for you, and a lot of those ads are cookied ads, so they're the ones that follow you around the web. Some of those ones that just pay a bit more. You can always place your own banner ads specifically with like manufacturers. So like when I was first had that ClickBank ebook, that wasn't an ad. I put that there, but I created a banner that was largely like an ad, that actually did fairly well for me. Yeah, so I'm talking more just about the ad networks that'll just do all the ad placement for you and pay fairly well for it.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Still not, in my opinion. There are some people that feel like ads is kind of where this space is headed, because ad revenues are going up. Some people feel like affiliate revenues like Amazon are going down. It's not been my experience. I still make a lot more money with Amazon and with affiliate networks than I do with ads, but I don't feel like I lose hardly anything affiliate revenue wise adding ads. So I just feel like it's bonus income for the sites.
Yeah. And I mean, at the end of the day, you own the site as well, so you can choose whether or not to put ads on there. I have a friend
Yeah,
who just removed ads off of his site because he felt that it was affecting his conversions for his
yeah.
affiliate
And I
solution.
think sometimes that can be the case because no question that ads degrade the user experience. No one wants ads on the site. Um, I mean, there's so that is always a sacrifice with ads. So you just have to kind of feel it out if it's worth it. But if you have fairly high traffic, um, you have to test that yourself. But I feel like ads are probably not gonna, like, you're not gonna lose as much revenue in your affiliate networks as you are gonna gain in the ad revenue. Has
Mm-hmm.
been my experience, but it's very site specific.
So it's Saturday right now.
Mm-hmm.
We're obviously eating in a bit of your family time, but I do have a question though.
Yeah.
Is how do you plan out your week? How does somebody balance out a family plus two sites, and getting those sites even profitable? Like we kind of went over that a little bit before, but how
Yeah.
does it look structurally on a week?
Oh man, I wish I had a better answer for this because it's not super well structured. So I have a full time job. It's a very, like, I work about 8 to 4 every day, and so pretty much 2 or 3 evenings a week are dedicated after the baby goes to sleep. So he's 19 months old now. So I get home. We as a family just hang out, play together until about 6 or 6:30, and then we put our toddler down. And then 2 or 3 nights a week are just nights entirely for me to work on my websites. So on those nights, I'll work 4 to 6 hours. And then sometimes on the weekends, just depending on our schedule, if I have any time, I'll work on my sites too. And that's about it. So 2 or 3 nights a week, I dedicate almost entirely to working on it. And then outside of that, I just try to find time when I can.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, I mean that's
Yeah.
the life
Yeah. So not,
of a busy father.
yeah, it's not super structured, but I'm still pretty just obsessed with niche sites and with affiliate revenue, and just this whole category just gets me really pumped and jazzed. And so it's always on the back of my mind. So if I ever have a free moment, I'm excited enough that I can just jump in and get right going. It doesn't feel like work to me at this point because I just really enjoy it and I get a lot of satisfaction from it. So yeah, so it doesn't feel usually like I get done with work and I'm like, no, now I have to go to my second job. I would choose this over many fun things like video games or bowling. So for
Oh
me,
man, I love bowling though.
I do too. And sometimes I need a break, but I enjoy it enough that it can feel like downtime for me almost.
I think people are going to be unhappy with me if I don't ask about your third site.
Sure.
Is there anything about your third site that you'd want to share with us that, yeah, that maybe is different than the strategies that you've talked about with these first two sites?
No, it was a site that I started mostly because I thought it would be fun. It's kind of in like the paranormal kind of niche. So it's a little bit out there. It is not a niche that I would recommend to anyone. It's very hard to recommend affiliate products. It's very low traffic. It was just a category that I thought it'd be fun to write on. So it was like a break from my break site. It only has about 30 articles on it, but it is getting around 800 to 1,000 page views a month. So I just added premium ads to it. I think that within a month or two, it'll be doing $500 a month. So still pretty good for 30 articles. So it's doing fairly well. But yeah, nothing new on that site really. I just wrote helpful content the same way I would, but I spent less time being picky about the articles, and I wrote more articles that I just thought would be fun to write for that site. But it still panned out pretty well. And that one I started even before I bought the HPD site, but I only wrote like a couple articles on it. I'm like, no, this isn't worth my time. I'm going to do something real. So then I bought the HPD site, put time into that. And then occasionally I've just taken a break and written an article on this site. So it's kind of been my third project, but not one I put time into recently, and probably won't for a while.
Okay. Very cool. Yeah, I mean, I feel like sometimes a niche that, at least the third site that's in that paranormal niche, maybe has an ability to get some virality on Facebook through running some ads,
and some
get
of the
some
articles
shares,
are
because
kind of that. Yeah, but it's just it's more like if I just want to do something really just kind of fun. The ROI of my time on that site is not as good for my HPD site or for my big site. So if I'm actually trying to be productive, I'm not going to work on this site. But
well, Jaron, do you? I was thinking about wrapping this up, because I'm just really happy that we got a moment of your time here, because
it's been really fun. The time's flown by.
Yeah, exactly. 10K site, and then deciding you don't want to build a site again, and then using HPD to get the age site. Now it's at $800. Originally, when we talked, you thought it was gonna be $400. So that's actually doubled.
It essentially doubled when I added ads, and then it doubled last month to this month. I think in March it will almost for sure do over $1,000 a month, and that's just my 8th month with the HPD site. And something I'll mention about that to people that buy like a site from Human Proof Designs or anywhere else is I changed nothing about the site other than adding content. So I didn't change the articles that were given with the site. I didn't change the look of the site. I didn't change the logo of the site, the colors, the themes, nothing. I just took the site as I purchased it from HPD, and all I've done since then is add content to bring it from where it was when I purchased it to where it is now. Just for people that buy a site and then feel like they need to obsess about the look of the site, it doesn't matter. I mean, the site looked good anyway, but it's just not something was worth my time because my time was limited. So all I did is just publish content because that's what matters more.
Awesome. Do you have any final words or anything like that you want to share with people?
I would say, so I'm just talking specifically to the people that have these type of websites or want to have these type of websites. I think spend 90% of your time, 80 to 90% of your time on keyword research. Finding good articles in fairly small keywords is what I like to do, but especially if the site's early on or isn't a very big site yet, spend most of your time writing keywords and then writing a helpful article and then do it again. Well, I mean, come up with a bunch of keywords and then write a bunch of articles. Just spend your time keyword research, writing articles, keyword research, writing articles, because you can always split test the monetization later. You can add ads later. You can try different affiliate networks later. Like once you have traffic, you just have this steady flow from a faucet that you can keep trying things under, and figure out what works. I see a lot of people obsessing about monetizing a site that has 5 articles and is getting 5 page views a day. And they're like, obsessing about like conversion rate optimization. I'm like, you're not there. You just need to be writing, doing more keyword research, writing more articles. And once you have traffic, fine tuning the monetization is more fun and much simpler. So that would be the thing I would like people to leave with, is just write more helpful content.
Awesome stuff. Well, thank you very much, Jaron,
Yeah.
for
Yeah. Thanks so
coming
much for
by,
having me on.
sharing your story, and I guess we'll talk to everybody next week.
All right.